Okay. Okay, welcome everybody, and a very warm welcome and a good afternoon to you all. I hope you can all hear me okay. Can we just do a little check? Can you tell me in the chat, can you just let me know that you can hear me by letting me know where you're watching from? Where are you based today? Good, good. So let me know where you are. Mike's in Thailand, we've got Kenny in Bangkok, so lots of people in Thailand so far. I myself I'm based in Thailand as well. I'm in Nonthaburi in Thailand. Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, Tokyo. Let's see who's the furthest away. I guess Philippines, Japan. All right, great stuff. Oh, Shanghai as well, of course. Yes, we've got Manila. Good. All right. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you for your attendance this afternoon on this this lovely day in Thailand. It's not raining at the moment, so that's a positive for us here. Welcome to the Connecting Glocal Perspectives Trilogy. Let me just move on a slide. So today we are going to start our very important and very amazing season 4 of the Macmillan Education Advancing Learning Program. We're delighted today to be launching a variety of events for teachers like yourselves, which will include webinars, which we have today, of course. We have blogs, podcasts, as well as a guide to teacher development to build your skills, both in online and face-to-face environments. So maybe, can you just let me know in the chat, are you teaching online at the moment, or are you teaching face-to-face, or are you teaching in both, in maybe a hybrid setting? Got lots of online coming in. Oh, nice to see some face-to-face. Still online, still online. Well, yeah, I think we have lots of people here from Thailand, and I think we're moving very soon, or hopefully to a face-to-face setting. It's a holiday at the moment here in Thailand for students, but hopefully when they come back from the holidays at the start of November, they'll be going back to face-to-face. So anyway, whatever your scenario, whatever your situation, we'll be able to help you with some ideas and some development ideas and tips that will basically fit both scenarios, online and face-to-face. All our key activities, all the things that we're going to be doing are linked to these 5 pillars that you can see at the bottom of your screen here. So the first one is advancing students' global skills. All right, and that's what we're going to be doing actually today. There are other different pillars that you can look at there, but what we're trying to do is make sure that everything we do is aligned to these key pillars and these key development tools for teachers and for students. So stay tuned for more great teacher support towards the end of 2021 and then into 2022 as well. So let's have a look at what we have in store for this week's trilogy of events. So as part of Macmillan Education's Advancing Learning Season 4, we will bring you a trilogy of webinars from our Glocal team. So today, we're going to kick off with our local team, or depending on where you are, of course, but it's our local Asia team. So we're going to kick off today with a useful YL special. On Thursday is a productive panel discussion with a diverse team of experts from around the globe. And finally, we wrap up on Thursday with a tremendous teen special. The theme, I said, of this session integrates global citizenship and the sustainable development goals from the UN, and also the Education for Sustainable Development and Citizenship program. And here's a nice image of our fantastic panelists and presenters that you will see this week. So by the end of this week, we hope that you'll have lots of food for thought when it comes to sustainable development goals for the education for sustainable development and citizenship, and also lots of useful ideas, more importantly, lots of ideas and tips that you can take into your classrooms and use them immediately. For more information on the pillars, you can see in the chat, Daisy, our lovely colleague in China, is going to post into the chat a link for the Macmillan English, macmillanenglish.com website, where you can find lots of information about the pillars and also information about the other sessions that are running this week if you haven't already registered. More on that later as well. And there's also a link going to be posted into the chat, which is a link to the One Stop English website, which has loads of teaching resources for the classroom. So have a look in the chat for those links. Without further ado, however, let me introduce you to today's session and our key speakers. We have a great session to kick off this week. We have two great trainers who I'm very pleased to call my friends, and I'm very lucky to call my colleagues. The session is all about project-based learning and developing global citizens. So John and Super are in the wings. So if you would like to turn on your microphone, your cameras, John and Super, so we can all see you.
Hi, Del.
Hi there.
Hi, Del.
Hello. Hello. Good afternoon to you both. So Super, before we begin, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, hi teachers, everyone. Good afternoon. This is Super saying hi from Shanghai. I work for Macmillan Education as a teacher trainer and academic consultant. I'm very happy to be here. I think I've seen some of you in the previous ELT time sessions and a lot of teachers from China. Hi. Yeah, looking forward to the session.
Lovely. Thank you, Super. And John, can you say a few words to introduce yourself if people don't know you already?
Thank you very much, Del. A very warm welcome to all our participants today I think from Japan all the way west across to Iran, I think, as well, and brilliant, and loads from Asia as well. So my name is John, also working with Macmillan Education, based here in Greater China. I've been in Asia for about 20 years now as a teacher trainer in South Asia and Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam, and now I've been in China for around 6.5 years, and looking forward to sharing some experiences and some practical tips today.
Thank you very much. Go away. Sorry about that. Somebody's just come in my room. So thank you very much, John and Super, for the introductions. As we go through today's session, please put any questions for John and Super into the chat. I will be monitoring the chat, and then at the end of the session, we'll have an opportunity to ask any questions. So over to you guys. Have a great session.
Thank you very much, Del. Good. Are you all set, Super?
Yes, thank you very much, Del. So
Great.
are you ready to start, John?
I am indeed, yes. So this session will be a little bit collaborative. We'll have two presenters, and we'll be bouncing some ideas off each other. In terms of the agenda, we will firstly turn to PBL, project-based learning, and define that. If you are, for example, using project-based learning in your classrooms, do let us know as well. And feel free to share your experiences and ideas in the chat box today. In particular, we'll discuss the challenges when doing project-based learning, both face-to-face, but also in the remote or online teaching contexts. And then we'll put forward two lesson plans, actually using project-based learning to show you the practicalities of implementing project-based learning in your classroom. Does that sound okay, Super?
Yes, very clear introduction about the agenda. Thank you very much.
Good. So obviously Del mentioned as well about global citizenship, which is a theme running through all our programs at Macmillan education at the moment. And in our title, we mentioned creating creative global citizens, super. Before we sort of jump into the whole PBL thing, I think global citizenship is one kind of element which we can use PBL to get into all this global citizenship. What does that mean to you quickly?
So for me, I think we are all citizens living in this small, like global village. So global citizenship actually means understanding that we are all connected and each one of us has a role to play in taking care of the world we are living in. So global citizenship, maybe education, will help students to develop that kind of knowledge, attitudes and skills to become like better learners, better people, and empower them to become like people to make positive impacts on the schools, the homes, the communities they live in, both locally and globally, in like building a more peaceful, tolerant, inclusive society.
Wow, that's deep stuff. Super nice. Yeah, so I think helping our students, isn't it, understand how the world is connected and in a global sense, but bringing it back to their own lives as well. Developing general awareness of the world is a good thing, right?
Yes.
And I guess as teachers these days, we're not just language teachers, right? We're being asked to do so much more. Not only developing language, but developing 21st century skills, and now these things like global citizenship. And I guess there is kind of skills, knowledge, attitude, values that come with that we can integrate, right?
Yeah. So in order to help students become effective global citizens, we need to prepare them with the knowledge, the skills, and the attitudes and actions. Yeah, and the teaching approach we're introducing today is exactly one way to do it, right? So that's why we are here to talk about project-based learning.
Yeah, and maybe everyone there in the chat box, what does project-based learning mean to you? Maybe in the chat box, feel free to type a word or a phrase or something that comes to your mind when you think of project-based learning. I think Super's just given you the answer there anyway, but
I know many teachers actually are trying out PBL in their classrooms. I see teachers like
learning by doing. Yeah, collaboration, learning by doing, teamwork. Yeah, definitely involved, isn't it? Those skills. Oh, lovely, Maribel. Student voice and choice. Lovely, authentic. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, and I think all those comments, they're all very, very relevant, aren't they? And that's why many classrooms around the world are adopting it. I think in general, it's an approach that was adopted in mainstream education, for example, in the US and the UK as well, for in first language classes, right? It's something that's becoming more and more popular, I think, with in foreign language learning or second language learning as well, just because it brings so much more, doesn't it, in terms of the skills that are required. And like people are saying, there's meaningful projects as well can be fantastic, can't they?
Yeah, it's getting popular because there are a lot of like proved evidence showing that there are many benefits after taking like the PBL approach in the classroom. So here we have got some discussions about the benefits PBL can have in the students' learning. For example, we have got like academic achievement. There are research showing that the knowledge will retain longer, the learning, the understanding will be deeper using a PBL approach in terms of the subject learning, for example, language, math, science, and other subjects knowledge will become better. And even the exams, the tests the students take has shown like improved results after PBL learning. Yeah,
absolutely. And as we mentioned, as everyone's mentioning the chat as well, we have these lovely 21st century competencies. People have been mentioning thinking skills, problem solving, decision making. What else, Super?
and also maybe critical thinking, collaborative learning, communication skills. All these 21st century competencies will be a result of PBL learning. And at the same time, the students' motivation will be improved as well, because we're engaging them with real world like content, solving real world problems, doing like collaborative teamwork. So if done in a good way, in a proper way, it is good to motivate your students using projects and get them engaged for longer time.
Yeah, I think so. But it's important to add that maybe for motivation, not every student will be motivated by every project. So we do have a responsibility, a role as a teacher to try and tap or hook the students' motivation, right, with the topics that we choose, but also with the planning that we do, making sure students will be motivated as well. Super important.
Yeah. And lastly, actually, very interestingly, to see the teacher satisfaction rate is increased as a result of PBL. Maybe it requires like some time and professional development for teachers to get used to PBL, and it does take some time, but for those teachers who actually carry out the PBL in their classroom, in their school, the teacher satisfaction is better as well.
I think it can be, yeah, absolutely. If we get it right, but it can go wrong, right? If we don't plan it well enough and choose the right topics, choose the right projects. There's many things or pitfalls, right, that are waiting for us if we don't get it right, which we must think about. For example, I think we have a few challenges. And maybe in the chat box, if you can think of any other ones as well, any other challenges maybe that you've had doing projects, doing project-based learning, let us know. Obviously, we have time restraints, super. People are teaching in different kinds of school. So for example, in China, we have like bilingual type schools, right? Where maybe Monday to Friday, where they can do maybe sort of more longer term projects over 1 week, 2 weeks. Many people are just teaching in private language schools for 2, 3, 4 hours a week. So it's a little bit limited. So you have to try and condense those projects over 1 weekend, maybe 2 weekends, right?
Yeah.
Language proficiency, super. Do you think project-based learning is something that can be done at sort of very low levels, or only sort of higher levels with greater proficiency? What do you think?
I think we can both do lower levels and higher levels, but we need to differentiate what kind of projects we do, and also get students prepared for some basic skills like some language, some like collaborative learning skills, some research skills. Building the skills and the language like from lower levels and gradually moving up to higher levels to do more complex and sophisticated projects. We can definitely try.
Cool. All right. Independent versus collaborative. Maybe we need to teach the students those kind of learning skills, how to research independently, how to work alone, especially if they are working remotely, as well as if they're working as a team online or face-to-face. The kind of the social etiquette, right, of working, collaborating together, and that takes time to build that culture. And not all students want to work together, and that can slow things down as well. Remote teaching context, I think we'll mention that as we go through, super. But I think what's important with remote teaching context or face-to-face is kind of monitoring the process, having kind of clear milestones, checklists to help them keep on track, keep on time with all their tasks. And hopefully if you kind of do all this and you choose the right projects, the topics, it can be super engaging and motivating as well. And hopefully we'll show that through our lesson plans today. A few other actually challenges coming in, super. We've had planning takes a long time. I would say yes, it does. But I think like you mentioned, it does take planning, but once the projects are running, as a teacher, you become that kind of facilitator, right? And that will free up a little bit of time for you there, obviously, to get around your students. So yes, it will do. And I would suggest in that sense to plan collaboratively with other teachers and share the load where possible if you're doing similar project types. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Shall we have a look then at a little bit deeper then before we have a look at lessons in terms of a project versus project-based learning? Some of you may be already doing project work, but there are subtle differences, right, between project-based learning, which hopefully we'll bring out today.
Yes, and based on the anticipated challenges, we can also actually work on different kinds of projects. Yeah, as we here on this page, we can start maybe from doing a project as a dessert, or we can moving on to do more comprehensive project-based learning as a main course. Yeah, to moving from lower level to higher level. Yeah, to start from easy to complicated. Yeah, there are two types of different kinds of projects we're going to introduce you today.
Okay, great. And it kind of, we can summarize that. I think we've got a slide kind of summarizing a bit more, don't we? And in terms of the difference between doing a project as a dessert, maybe at the end of the unit, for example, to kind of practice everything that we've done in that unit, or kind of using the unit itself as the project, okay, which is a very kind of interesting or different way of approaching our teaching and learning. Anything there? The teachers can read this themselves and familiarize themselves with the basic differences, super, but anything else that you want to pick out there of interest?
Yes, as we mentioned, some of the teachers are still teaching online. So a dessert like project can be completed at home as well, sometimes individually by the student themselves. So it is possible to do a dessert project even teaching remotely. And sometimes we focus more on the product instead of the process. And also it remains maybe in the context of a school, follows the teacher's instructions more in a dessert project, which makes it easier for students and for teachers to plan and to carry out the project.
Great. Okay then.
Yeah. So maybe we can start from my lesson plan first.
Yeah. So what we'll do, we'll walk through a lesson plan, sort of following. You're going to be using a framework, right? Super.
Yeah.
And we've got about sort of 20 minutes each, right, to present a lesson plan, which will hopefully give you an idea of a structure and a few kind of activity ideas. Obviously, there are kind of deeper and different ways of doing it. This is kind of one way that you might think about it. And again, feel free to add your own ideas as well in the chat box.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is the project path I'm going to use to design and organize the project. It is a very simple, like 4-phase project path, all the way from project launch to project presentation. So on the left side, you will see the questions your students might need to figure out during each phase, and how you can support on the right side. Yeah, how you can support as a facilitator to help your students to keep on track and finish the tasks required in each phase. Yeah, you can take a quick 10 seconds to read through the project path, and we will come back to this after as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite a lot of information there, but Super will kind of guide through these 4 steps in a minute and make it all kind of clear as we go through. And again, we're recording this session as well, and we can share that, and you can watch it back if you want to go into anything in more detail. All right. So what about you've got a little bit of a context about the materials you're going to be using, right, Super?
Yes, so I will use the popular Story Central updated version, Story Central Plus, as an example. I know many teachers are big fans of Story Central, and now this year we have an updated version of it, which we have added all the resources and tools teachers wanted for so many years. For example, more in-depth clear like content for project-based learning, more grammar and phonics and even exam practices. So I'm going to use the Clio, the Clio ebook, which is a new content. We have added the Teacher Resource Center. Yeah, it is great for project-based learning, and I'm going to use this as an example to show you how to design and organize a project lesson based on that 4-phase project path.
That sounds really good. Okay. And then when you kind of designed your lesson, what was your kind of learner profile? What was your kind of context when you were thinking about designing your project-based lesson today?
Okay, so I will choose a lesson from Story Central Plus Level 3, Chapter 4, Recycle or Upcycle. Very interesting topic, right? And each of the Clio lesson from the eClio ebook will be like this. It starts from a reading text and some reading activities to build the knowledge, and then there is a time to think for the students to think about the topic critically, come up with some solutions to a problem, and then it ends up with a collaborative project to create something to answer the question and also to present to the audience to show the result. So this lesson will be facing the age group 9 to 10 years old, around CEFR level, around A1 plus to A2. And I'm designing a project lesson for 2 to 4 hours, maybe usually over like a weekend or over 2 weekends for private language school, and about maybe 15 school students in one class. Yeah, and also the project is based on the social science learning in this unit. The learning objectives are there for the students to learn the difference between recycling and upcycling to provide the environment, and they will recognize the difference and create an upcycled product and present it at the end. One thing I want to mention is about the assessment areas. I think some teachers have mentioned in the chat box, it's hard to monitor and assess students' learning in a project-based learning class. So when you plan the lesson, you need to think about that at the beginning. Yeah, what you want to assess, and you need to have clear objectives listed and assessment areas listed as well. Okay, so based on this learner profile, this lesson plan, I'm going to show you a dessert, a dessert like a project. I will try to keep it simple, try to keep it practical for most teachers who are teaching online or face-to-face. I will offer opinions and activities and tools for both online and offline classes. Okay, so are we ready to start from phase 1?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and yeah, we're going to have a look at you're going to have a look at a 4-phase or 4-step approach, right? So maybe as the teachers are reading through that one, you're going to have a look at each one, right? And put forward some practical activities for each phase, basically. Is that right?
That's right. So I will show you like in 4 phases what kind of activities we can do and how we can do it online and offline.
Brilliant. All right. So what about the launch then? So the launch project, phase 1. Let us know what would you do there here, Super? Okay.
So to launch a project, I suggest we can do an entry event, establish a purposeful learning. For example, in this unit, we're talking about recycle and upcycle. So we can do an entry event to help the students to understand the topic and connect what they are going to do with the project with their daily life. So the event here we do for this unit can be a campus tour in a face-to-face classroom or a house tour in an online classroom.
Wow, sounds interesting.
Yeah, so I'm going to put students in like a group, in small groups, and they can go around the campus, and then they will need to look for like different kinds of trashes generated in school, and try to record what they find, what kind of like recyclable trashes they find, materials they find, and take a picture, maybe make a record. And then they will also need to collect some recyclable materials, because they will use that for later the project creation. And for the online class, yeah, you're not able to do like a group work. You ask your students to do a house tour, and maybe you can ask a parent to support and help the students to finish that part as well. So when it comes to online, because you want to monitor what the students are doing and you want to keep everybody on track, so you can use a tool called Jamboard. You can put the group name on a sticker like this and ask them to note down the recycled trash they find in their house with pictures, so that they can contribute to the group work like fairly, and also you can monitor what they're doing at the same time. So Jamboard, John, do you know anything about Jamboard?
I do, yeah, but it's kind of like part of the Google suite, isn't it? And it's a kind of it's a bit like kind of brainstorming with post-it notes on the whiteboard in the classroom, right? But it's like it's like a kind of a virtual whiteboard, and you can do different types of activities. And if you're a teacher who's using the Google Suite, Google Forms, Google Sheets, this is one extra addition which can be used as well. We don't want to scare you too much with too much technology and different things. We'll show you a variety of different tech, but keep it simple where you can. But this is one potential option of a little bit of interaction as well when you're online.
Yes. And then moving on to present the driving question. So usually a project will start with a driving question. So here on Story Central Plus, we have it's our world section, which is generated from the Macmillan's framework, Education for Sustainable Development and Citizenship. Yeah, we're going to talk about that in the second and third session, right? So all the questions coming from this part can be used as a driving question for the project. So in this unit, how can you reduce trash at home or in school? So by answering this question, the student will start to do a project to create an upcycled product to reduce trash at home and in school.
That's nice, isn't it? Because that kind of, if they are online actually or remotely, already we've got that option there, right? At home or at school as well.
Yes.
I guess it's be a question of the kind of support that you give them, particularly maybe working in collaboration with parents as well to help them get set up. And I guess we'll talk about that as we go through. Okay, yeah. So we're building up. So you had the entry event, and they do a home tour or school kind of tour as well. You got a driving question.
Yeah.
What comes next?
Then it's time for the students to discuss and question about the topic. Yeah, it's really important to get them into the topic before they do the project. So we can do some pair and group discussion activities. For example, in a face-to-face class, you can do a think, pair, share activity. With an online context, you can do it with a breakout room or a collaborative board. So I'll show you an example here.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And just to note, some people mentioned about technology as well, like not having the technology to switch on cameras and microphones and collaborate. And I guess in those situations, then you might want to look at sort of independent type projects as well. Would be one option if technology doesn't allow you to do that sort of collaboration remotely. Sorry, Super, go on. These shoes look amazing.
So you can use pictures like this to help your students to think about the topic, like think, pair, share. Activity means the students think independently first, and then do a pair discussion before they share their opinions to the rest of the class. Yeah, what's the difference between these two pictures? Actually, the left one is a recyclable water bottle, and the right one is an upcycled like product of a water bottle. Yeah, you can ask your students to share their opinions using the stickers with their name on it. Yeah, I know Dale would love these slippers. And also you can ask them to discuss further about upcycled product here using these pictures from the book. Yeah, you can ask them to guess what they were made from. Yeah. Can you tell me what they were made from?
Well, I think you've given me the answers here, but it looks like I've said a teapot, right? A teapot, and then we've got old jeans, don't we, and the milk bottle. And I definitely need to do this project. I have so many plastic water bottles and things like that at home, lying around at home, which I feel really guilty about, Super. So I think this is going to give me motivation, I think, to do something with all that plastic.
Yes, and these pictures and questions help your students to like generate discussion and questions about the topic. And then it's time to launch the project. Yeah, with that passion and with that like energy there, we launch the project with clear objectives and instructions. So in this unit, they're going to create an upcycled product using the recyclable materials they find at home or in school. And I think at this stage, here comes the planning, right? You give very clear objectives and instruction for your student, especially the assessment. Yeah, you can make the assessment rubric like visible for your students at the beginning of the project. They know where they're going to be assessed and how they're going to be assessed. Yeah, so here I listed like 5 activities they need to be assessed from the entry event to the project presentation, which means this is an ongoing assessment for them to participate and contribute to the project. And not only the language will be assessed, they will also be assessed on their teamwork, their final presentation. Yeah, they know what to expect with this assessment framework presented at the beginning of the project. And that's the end of phase 1.
Okay, looks good. So what's next then? We start, okay, building knowledge, understanding skills. Sounds good.
Yes.
Tell us more.
In order to like complete the project in a nice and smooth way, the students will need that knowledge and the skills, especially as we mentioned, they need some language as the basics. So we have like the reading text prepared for the students to get into the topic, understand the concepts, and also get to know the language prepared for the final like presentation of the project. So we can do an activity here to build the students' vocabulary. So we can do an activity called Find the World. So you can do it in class, and also with help of dictionary and quiz tools online as well. So that's how we can do it. So you use the pictures from the book. You can ask the student, you can give the pictures to the students and ask them to find these words matching to the pictures in the reading text. So they will be able to do an activity based around the language and the vocabulary while they're reading. And if you're doing it online, you can simply using the polls on maybe Zoom, or using the quiz tool on Zoom to ask the students to submit their answers after the reading. And if you want to make it a little bit fancier, you can use a tool called Quizlet, because it is a very good tool for flashcard games. Yeah, it's good for vocabulary practice. So you can use the tool Quizlet to create like matching games of the words and pictures. Yeah, the good thing is you can keep a record of all the students like result if you're using the tools online, no matter the poll quiz tool or the Quizlet website.
Okay, that looks like a nice little platform. Yeah.
Yeah. After the language, the vocabulary building, yeah, it's important to get them to share their opinions about the topic, to personalize what they've read from the reading text. So here's an activity for them to talk about what they can upcycle and why they should upcycle. So in a face-to-face class, we can put them into pairs and ask them to do a talk partner activity. In an online class, we can use maybe an audio video discussion platform if possible. Yeah, also breakout rooms if possible, to make sure they are actually talking and share their opinions about the topic.
Hmm.
So here's the tour if you want to use, if you have access to, if the students have access to the technologies called Flipgrid. So it is basically a TikTok type of platform. The students can create and share short videos about their opinions towards the questions. Yeah, it is good for the students to upload the videos, and then all the other students can see and comment, and teachers can keep a record of all the students speaking activities in one place as well.
Yeah,
So
it's
this
nice.
is
It's
a
nice,
tool.
isn't it? And but don't worry. You don't have to use every single tech tool in every project to kind of just options. And I would suggest to keep it very simple. You can just always use your mobile phone for recording videos, right? And share it on the class platform or WhatsApp group or something like that. But if you are a teacher looking to find new tools and experiment a bit, I think something like Flipgrid is a lot of fun, I think, and very modern, maybe very motivating for the students, I think.
Yes, I hope so. And moving on to the time to think part of the book. So this is another input to get the students to think about the topic in different perspectives, to provide opportunities for them to think critically about the topic as well. And then moving on to the third phase, which is to develop and critique products and answers to the driving question, which is the project creation part. So on Story Central Plus, there are two activities prepared for the students to do the project, to help them apply what they've learned to the task and to the project. And at this stage, the teachers can provide additional resources if necessary, provide maybe extra materials to help the students to do the project. So the activity I suggest here for face-to-face and online class is we can do group project in class, face-to-face class with teacher support and monitor. But if it's if we have to do it online remotely, maybe we can invite the parents to be part of the project, ask them to assist the students to do an individual project.
Yeah, and I think on that point as well, having clear instructions, right, for
Yeah.
parents as well. And I think remote teaching works much better when you do have that parental buy-in and support as well. So a little support pack for parents, showing them what's going on, what they need to do, the materials they need, is almost a must, isn't it? I think with young learners, with project-based learning.
And we can offer the students two options depending on the situation, because sometimes we do lack resources to do projects. Sometimes the students lack motivation to be creative. So in order to make the project work, we can offer two options. Firstly, you can ask your students to create their own upcycled product, using their creativity. If they don't have that, we can also offer the option 2 here. This is like a standardized project they can do. Using the water bottle to do an upcycled planters to plant something in it. So this should be an option for you from the teacher's book that you can use.
That's good. Also, and the other option is everyone do the same thing, right? Everyone do the same thing. And that probably might be easier to do independent ones if they're doing it remotely, right? In individual remote projects, everyone do the same. But with that, you don't get the voice and the choice, do you?
Yes,
with those
so
ones,
try to keep it as a dessert project, try to make it more practical and feasible. Sometimes we have to sacrifice some of the student voice and choice. Okay. And then the parents checklist here, you can create a very simple parents checklist. Ask the parents to be your little a teaching assistant to make sure they can do the project at home. Some materials to prepare from the book. Show parents some examples so they can prepare in advance.
Sounds good.
And then finally to the project presentation. So at this phase, we ask the students to share the project with the class, making a short presentation to the rest of the class. So in a face-to-face class, the student can still work collaboratively in the presentation. Yeah, you do a synchronous, like face-to-face presentation of the products. And for online teaching, we can make individual presentations. It can be synchronous and it can be asynchronous as well. Yeah, considering the time restraints we have for online class, yeah, we can again introduce the platform like Flipgrid or using the recordings sending to the group, yeah, as an option for the students to record themselves of the presentation. So for example, here on Flipgrid, you can set up the title of the project presentation and ask the students to follow the instructions here to answer the guiding questions. Maybe you can also provide a template for the students to answer these guiding questions in the presentation to provide a nice scaffolding for the students to follow and plan their presentation.
Great.
Mm.
Okay,
Yeah,
and I'll talk a little bit more about the presentation and different types of presentation that they can choose from as well.
That's right. So that's a simple dessert project you can do using like a Story Central Plus type of course books based on the clear lessons. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Super. And yeah, it's kind of clear going through those four phases, right? And lots of great questions coming in as well, which we'll have a look at the end about China-based platforms, backward planning. That's a very interesting question. Thanks for that, John. As well as some other lovely questions there as well. All right. So Super had a look at the kind of dessert type 4-phase project-based learning type approach. I'm going to have a look at a second lesson plan now, maybe going a little bit deeper. Actually, someone asked the question about the difference between task-based learning and project-based learning, right? TBL versus PBL. And I think my answer for that would be they have a lot of similarities. They're both, very sort of learner sort of centered, but I think just PBL just goes a little bit further in terms of the skill development, the amount of communication and collaboration. So that's why I like it. It just goes that little bit further than task-based learning. So I'm going to be having a look at a slightly different framework. And if you're interested by this framework, this one I've taken from the PBL Works. The PBL Works. Do go onto that website. It's brilliant. You can get more information about this framework. And I'm going to sort of work around these learning goals. So I think John asked the question about backwards planning. So that's when you have kind of your learning goals for the unit. You make that kind of, you give that very visible at the start, and then you can sort of work towards those, or work kind of backwards in a way. So you could actually, John, you could use that approach. I wasn't thinking about that when I planned this, but I think you definitely could, and that would be quite interesting to hear your experiences with that. So I'm going to be using this this framework, but yeah, like Super, we'll start with a problem, for example, and then finish with a public product.
I think that's the key ingredients for the main course projects, right, John?
Exactly, yeah. So a little bit different, a bit more sort of a main course project, this one, as opposed to the dessert type that's Super. And hence my super duper framework. It looks a little bit sort of special. And there are other frameworks available as well on that pblworks.org website you can see on this slide. And actually, we talked about motivating students, planning as well. Yes, it will take time. Projects don't just appear. That's why I suggest to do it collaboratively as part of a whole school project-based learning approach, where there's buy-in from all sectors of the school, and you can sort of share that planning load. But this kind of idea is a way of kind of checking that you've got the right project. So once you design your project, this is a checklist to make sure that it's going to be a good project, basically. So it's a little checklist that you can go through. Is it authentic? Is there student voice and choice? Is there room for reflection, etc., etc.? This will help you kind of plan, assess the quality of your project, and you can maybe sort of share that with your colleagues as well and get their feedback on your project if possible. Okay, very, very important. So let's kick off with a challenging problem. So it could be a challenging problem or a question, a driving question. And particularly, we're going to have a look at how we can make it authentic. If we can make it authentic, I think it's going to be a little bit more engaging for our students. So I'm going to be, again, working from the Story Central Plus course, a little bit higher level. That's why I'm using this framework. The language proficiency is a little bit higher with this project. And we're going to be having a look at a bit more scientific designing drones. Okay, they can do drawings, or if they really want to, they could make their own drone if they have the resources. But that's going maybe one step further. So we're going to have a look at, yeah, so they're going to design their own drone to solve a problem. I've got 18 students in my class, about 11 years old, at A2 plus level. That's my context.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so by the end, they're going to have to design a drone for the future. All right, there's a few kind of questions that they'll have to answer to help them structure their work. And like Super, I would have an entry event too around this drone theme. And I found these lovely videos of school students from the Netherlands who had designed different drones for a different purpose. Can you guess what that purpose might be, Super? So the first one, Candy Teddy drone. What do you think that's about?
Delivering candies, maybe?
It was. So actually, there's that teddy flies, and it's got a long tongue, and if you press the nose, the candy comes out, so it'll fly around delivering candy to students, basically. And there are like cooking drones, and a waiter or waitress drone there as well. So as part of the event, the students would watch the videos. They would write down how many different drones, what were their jobs, which one did you like, just to kind of build up the engagement around drones. If you're a teacher and you've got a drone and bring it in the classroom, that would be even better. Or I'm sure your students might have drones if you're allowed. I've been a little bit naughty here, and I've actually kind of changed the question from the book just to make it a little bit more authentic and a little bit more motivating, I felt. So here's my question. So you have been asked by your city or your hometown or wherever you are to design a drone for the future. How will it help your city and the people? Try and win the funding, $1 million. Okay.
Wow.
So yeah, so hopefully that I feel that might be a little bit more motivating for my students there, to give them a little bit of a push. Okay. So when you're looking at questions, driving questions, think how you might make it more authentic, more fun, more engaging for your students. Okay. So once we've got our driving question, we can then move on to the sustained inquiry. So we are posing questions, brainstorming problems, solutions, finding resources, applying information at this stage. So again, you can get all this information if you're doing CLIL type projects, you have CLIL content in your courses. I would use that maybe for the projects, and there you've got texts about drones, you've got some comprehension, true or false, some scenarios, some speaking, some thinking type problem solving there as well. And that's all great for sustained inquiry, building up their knowledge, skills, technical vocabulary around drones. Okay. You can do some. Go on, Super.
This looks like a mind map worksheet. Do you prepare yourself?
Yep, super. Yes, super easy, super. So this one is a great for kind of group work where they can brainstorm different problems and solutions. So, and then they use the drone, right, to solve those problems. So, for example, here in Shanghai, too many delivery motorbikes on the roads delivering food, right, which makes the roads quite dangerous. So they could explore maybe the avenue of delivery drones, for example, okay? Or just a funny one, people cycling with umbrellas, which I thought was particularly dangerous last week here. And they might look into umbrella drones. Completely silly, I know, but I would encourage my students to be a little bit silly and have fun with the concept of the drone. Okay, so
Very
they can
creative as well. Yeah. To
yeah.
boost the creativity.
Yeah, exactly. And if at home as well, they can't get into school, they can look out the window, write down maybe some problems they can see outside. They could draw a picture of it if they're very sort of visual and artistic, and then pose some solutions to those problems. All right. And you can sort of build up sort of knowledge around particular areas. This is a 5 why activity. This helps them dig a little bit deeper in the inquiry. So ask yourself sort of why too many delivery motorbikes? So why might we need a drone? It's dangerous for pedestrians. It's bad for the environment, maybe too many motorbikes. There's increasing population in the city. So they might then direct their inquiry around one of those kind of theme areas. Is it danger, safety, the environment, population? Okay, just can bring up loads of ideas, and later they can narrow down. It was mentioned about student voice and choice. I think we heard super in the chat box. Yes. Super important for engaging. If we give them a bit of ownership, then they will be more engaged. Okay, get them to go online, search for drone designs. If you've got a class platform to share work, then they can maybe post their favorite one, a picture of their favorite one online on the class platform. Other students can go on there and have a look at other designs as well, and that will give them other ideas too. And that can be collaborative. They can discuss as a group and build up their own design. If you do collaborative work in breakout rooms or face-to-face, then have some little question prompts there to spark some conversation. Okay. And they can build up, they can choose different jobs and different tools and functions, and they can get a lot of that from the reading, actually, in the CLIL content from the student book. All right, and encourage them to be creative. All right. And then talking about student voice and choice, again, participants, maybe teachers out there in the chat box, if you can think of other ways to present this, let me know as well. So they could do a poster presentation about their drone. If they want to do a PowerPoint, they can. They could make a model if they have the time and the resources. They could record a video talking about it. And I'm sure you guys could think of other ways as well. Okay. But those slightly higher levels, do give them a little bit of accountability and roles, responsibility. So a few questions that you might pose to them to get them thinking, give them ownership, okay, of the project.
Yes, I think that like a student voice and choice can be given to the students as the level goes up and as they are more familiar with project-based learning. And after you build that kind of culture, the students will be more motivated and engaged with the student voice and choice part.
Yeah, we got a Xia Wang says role play and animation as well. Wow. If you've got some cool app or something that they can design an animation, then wow, that would be amazing, wouldn't it? I know in China now they STEAM and STEM type projects are becoming more and more popular, aren't they? And so bringing in more sort of science and technology and developing robots and all these kind of things. And actually, some schools have programs, don't they, where they where they design robots, I think, and it's really incredible for an old-fashioned teacher like me. So yeah, so we got their question, their sustained inquiry, they're problem solving, and they're narrowing down. Hopefully it's authentic. We're giving them some choice and voice, and where you can have lots of reflection and revision. So maybe like drafts of ideas, get some feedback before the final presentation. Very, very important. Okay. So you might do, they might present, for example, at the halfway stage, what job for the drone they want to focus on and what function the drone might have. And then they can get a little bit of feedback from other groups or the teacher. So what are the pluses about their maybe design and their job and function? And you can get other students to give them some feedback. You know, I think your idea is good, super, because da, da, da. But I think maybe there may be a problem, maybe a minus because, for example, do you remember my umbrella drone? So that means basically when you're cycling, you can have a drone above you, which carries an umbrella. Completely silly, I know, but that might create a problem in the skies, right? And then crashing into each other in the sky. So they might want to, you know, highlight some minus points. Okay. So get some feedback before the final draft, I would suggest. So that's a plus, minus, and maybe something that's interesting about their original design. They can then maybe adapt things based on the feedback. You might also want to have a checklist of tasks. I think this helps monitor, keep them on track, makes them accountable as well. You could do it on a piece of paper, couldn't you? But I'm thinking online, if you're able to have something like, you know, a Google Sheet or a Google Live document or something similar that you might use in China if you can't use Google, for example, like a live tracking, which they would tick off that the teacher can see as well to see how well they're doing. And if students are not completing tasks, then they can clearly see and the teacher can get in contact with them and ask them kind of why they're falling behind, and for example, but have maybe a checklist of all the tasks at the start to show them the pathway maybe. Other ways to get some feedback and revise their first draft. This is a fishbowl. And again, this is good maybe for slightly higher levels where their language is a bit better. So fishbowl meaning that one group will sit in the middle of the classroom and maybe present their idea to the teacher around the table. And then the other groups would stand around the teacher and that group and create like a fishbowl around them. And that group and the teacher are like the fish inside the fishbowl. And then they would present their idea. And again, maybe give them a template. You know, we found these problems. These are our solutions. Our drone will look like this. It will have these tools, these functions. We want to do a PowerPoint template presentation. And then the teacher might ask a few questions, get them thinking a little bit, maybe change their mind on a few things. Then they go away and edit, adapt before the final product. Okay.
Yep.
This is kind of a bonus stage, super, if you have the time. If you're pressed for time, it may be a case of the teacher facilitating in a face-to-face class, going around, asking questions, checking in, right? Likewise, online, maybe having time with each group, if possible, in breakout rooms to check that they're on course, okay? If you don't have time for all the fishbowl, you might present to another group, get a peer review from that group, for example, just get a little bit of feedback before making any final edits, okay? All right, and then we come on to the public presentation, and Hai Xiao Wang got me thinking now about animations, and I've got a cool little app. I love my cycling, super, and I've got a cool little app. So I have a little camera called a GoPro camera, right?
Yes.
Where you can, like, when you cycle, you can like hold it and like record everything and capture everything. And there's a really cool app, and you can just upload, you know, photos and videos from your mobile phone straight to the app, and it creates a really cool animation video for you. And it's so cool. There's so many cool things out there, aren't there? And,
yeah.
yeah.
I think students are also more proficient in using these apps than us, I guess. Yeah,
I think so.
Allow the opportunities for them is key for them to create. I think teacher in the chat box also mentioned about students don't have creativity in their countries, and how to like help them to be more creative is one challenge. Probably we can, yeah, as a teacher, you can bring in a lot of resources, examples, using creative ideas out there to help your students, to inspire them, but also allow them to bring in their like interests and their like daily habits into the project. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. A few ideas here. This is in terms of who you present to. And I think to make it authentic, and I think to give your students a bit of a kick and a bit of a push, right? If they know they're going to present only to the teacher and other groups, maybe they'll do an okay project and they'll get some feedback and they'll go back to class, no problem, right?
Yeah.
But I think if maybe somebody else comes in, or you can get a friend or another teacher to come online during the presentation or be in class if you're back face to face, I think that ups the stakes a little bit and makes them switch on a little bit more and take it a bit more seriously, maybe. So depending on what kind of school that you have and the kind of people that you have access to, then, but do think about that. If you're going to invite someone on as a special guest who can pretend to be the city government official or something to present your drone, then that will be cool. And someone mentioned it, actually, someone said it's a great chance to develop confidence and presentation skills. So yeah, don't forget that. And if you do have the time, do give them a few pointers and tips for presentations, you know, how to stand, your voice, body language, eye contact. They might want to write a script. They might want to rehearse, especially if they're presenting online as a group. They'll need to rehearse, right? And share the time, check they know how to transition, check the tech, everything. So do practice with that as well. All right. I'm sure we'll have maybe some questions about assessment as well, but just finally, if you do, if you're thinking about how to assess, this one I just found, it's rubric-maker.com. It took me 2 minutes to create this. So you type in what you want to assess. So you choose, okay, I want to assess the planning, the brainstorming stage. I want to assess the content. I want to assess how well they do in teams. And I want to assess the oral presentation. Then it creates these rubrics for you. It's amazing. And you don't have to type in all of this. You just kind of choose. It's brilliant. Or you have the choice with Rubric Maker to develop little checklists. Yeah. Again, there's so many cool little tools out there, aren't there? It just depends what you want to assess. And finally, if you're thinking about doing this regularly in class, do get your students to reflect as well. And I think this will help them understand that you are taking these projects seriously, but also how they can keep improving with this projects. And this is kind of like an afterthought. Give them time to reflect about the project, what they did well, what they need to improve next time, what they learned, for example, to show that these are kind of serious projects and they're learning kind of serious things, right? So yeah, think about that too. And these worksheets, this one came from PBL Works too. All right. So that was mine. We had a look at this framework, a little bit different, maybe. Oh, perfect timing. A little bit deeper from yours.
It's really good, like comparison between like a dessert project and a main course project. John's examples like demonstrate how we can do a project in a more PBL way, yeah, to include all the ingredients that to make a project like authentic, make sure the students are dealing with like real life problems with more inquiry based learning, yeah, do more collaborative teamwork. It's just really good examples, yeah.
Great. And we've got a few questions actually coming in around the content today. What have we got here? So I think I answered John's a little bit about the backward planning.
I made a list, John. Would you like me to?
I've got them here. I've got them here. Do you want to read them out, Dale?
Yeah, I can do. I've got the names and everything. So in order, one of the first questions that came in was from Moniroth Sang, who asked, "Is PBL practical for students aged from 8 to 12?"
Okay. So that was, I guess that was kind of my age range. Yes, it will depend on the class, Monolith. It will depend on the size of the class. It'll depend on the materials, resources that you have access to. It'll depend if you are remote teaching or face-to-face, all things to bear in mind. But there's no reason why it can't work at these age groups. But you'll have to make sure that your planning, your scaffolding, the support that you give, for example, will just have to be that much deeper, I think. But what I suggest is, like Super showed, maybe start with the dessert type projects first, get them to grips with working together, collaborating together, build that culture first in the classroom before going a little bit deeper into my kind of project that I showed kind of second. All right.
Yes.
Cool.
And on that PBL Works website, there is another lovely kind of framework which tells you how you manage the process, and have a look for that one, because that is really important when you're starting out with PBL, I think. So do go onto that website and check out those frameworks.
It really is a great website, isn't it? It's got just full of resources and ideas. Sarah Tsai Feng Yin had a question. This comes from Facebook. Apologies for the terrible pronunciation of your name, but Sarah has been watching on Facebook. While we are using PBL, what is your advice of L1 use in the classroom?
That's a very good question. I think, for very young learners who have limitations in in the second language in English, we could allow certain like a group work discussion in their first language, especially when it comes to their passion, when they do some research online, when they assign maybe roles and the responsibilities to the teamwork. Yeah, they can do it in their group using some L1, but we need to make sure the activities we do for assessment is in English. Yeah, they know in which activity they will be using the target language, and also how they will be assessed in terms of the language in that activity. Yeah, we need to make that like visible and make that clear to the students.
If you're assessing them on the process of how well they collaborate in English in their groups, and that's being assessed, that tells me that you need to push them to speak in English. But it depends on your the school policy, depends on the teacher type. If you're a speaker of the same language as them, then it kind of makes sense if they get stuck. But if you're me and dealing a class with 18 Vietnamese students and I don't speak Vietnamese, then that kind of forces it to be more in English. But again, if you support them with sentence structures, sentence prompts to help them with the process as well, you build the skills and knowledge using the content from for example, we showed you the CLIL content from the book, which contains all the kind of the vocab and content, then that will help also. But I think that comes to another project question about failed projects, Del. I think I saw one about failed projects, and that might overlap a little bit.
Yeah, there's that's coming up in a minute. I kind of want to go in order because those people answered the questions first, and I just want to see if you can pick those off. I've got a couple more, and then we'll go to that one about failed projects. One is about, and I thought this was quite subtle. It's from an anonymous attendee. Does it make sense for projects to also be inquiry focused, problem based? So we often see this done with project-based learning and problem-based learning. Maybe you could just, maybe 30 seconds, just identify the difference.
Yeah, I think often project-based learning will be solving a problem, won't it? Yeah. And I would encourage teachers to set problems, actually. I think problems are a great kind of starting point, aren't they, as a driving question. But I think if it is problem-based, like Super was saying, you have to make it in the reality of the students, make it something that's close to them, that will hook them, right? I think, Super.
Yeah, that's right. So the students will find a problem in their daily life and come up with a solution and create a product as a project. So basically, I think there are a lot of similarities between problem-based learning and project-based learning. Project-based learning is we do a final product for the as a project. Maybe problem-based learning doesn't necessarily require a final product as a result.
Yeah, I see. Okay. And then, let's go to this one then from Angelina Capio Reyes, who said, how can one deal with a failed project or with failed projects? Will this need to affect the evaluation or just focus on the process?
Will this need to affect the evaluation or just on the process? Okay.
So I guess this might be a question about formative and summative assessment more than, I don't know. I'll leave it to you guys.
Okay. I think as Super mentioned at the start about maybe the teacher satisfaction, and there's nothing better if a project runs well and the students collaborate and they come up with a brilliant end product and they really get into it. It's brilliant, right? And the time you spent planning is worth it. But as mentioned, there are so many pitfalls, and I would be realistic. Some projects you do probably will fail for different reasons. Maybe for motivation, and maybe the sort of topic we choose, maybe the group dynamics, they don't work so well. Some students, if there's materials involved, they forget to bring their materials, for example, and so many things that can go wrong. So I think it's important to pinpoint what went wrong, reflect on that. I mentioned about the self-evaluation sheet for students, right? Maybe having some kind of reflective sheet for yourself where you can make notes throughout the process and what you would do differently next time as well. But I would ask the students as well, about that didn't work very well, did it? Just be honest, that wasn't so good, that one. Why don't you think it was so good? And just be a little bit honest, get feedback and say, what should we do next time? Let's try and change that maybe. And
I think just to add to that as well, and looking at what Rian van Maastricht has said, and actually what Neil Mosley, hi Neil, by the way, in Thailand had said, Neil mentioned about careful selection of project material is important. Yeah. And it is, and that could add to the failure of a project if it's not selected correctly. And Rian van Maastricht said there could be potential problems in the environment that you work in. It could be old-fashioned. Schools, managers, principals, coordinators are not open to new processes and prefer outdated methods. So there could be that challenge of changing people's minds about using this kind of methodology as well.
Yeah, and I think there was a little kind of project assessment checklist I showed towards the start, where when you're designing your project, just to make sure that you're covering kind of everything, it's like a little checklist that you can tick off, and you probably might identify some gaps at that stage and kind of predict problems maybe as well.
Yes, and I think sometimes maybe the final project can be failed, but the process cannot be like failed all the time. So we assess students formatively at each stage. So you are still be able to evaluate the students' work and give them feedback and to reflect on it. Yeah, it won't be a totally failed project because we actually set up different areas for assessment at the beginning. Yeah, to keep make sure, the students have completed some of it.
Yeah, and just sort of going back to what Dell said and what Neil said as well about choosing the right content and project, and don't be afraid, if you don't like the question, for example, in the book or the topic, just tweak it, adapt it a little bit, and bring in the students' their needs and their likes and dislikes as well, and put yourself in the students' shoes and what kind of topic question they might like to do.
Yeah, that's teacher Shinta asked. She said, can the driving question come from the students? Yes, yeah, John just mentioned. Yeah, we can co-construct, co-construct the driving question with the students and discuss, the interesting topics. That's the topics will interest your students. Yeah, come up with a driving question based on the observation of your students living and their interests as well.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, I think that brings us to the end with the questions. Is anybody? Let me just check the.
I just want to mention there were some questions about China-based platforms and things, and obviously talking about failure as well. And if you use platforms and try and use these tools and things which don't work in a particular country for internet reasons or slow connection, then again during the planning stage give that a lot of thought about what you're going to use, and just use things that are going to work in your context basically.
Yeah, there are alternative websites that we can use in China. Yeah, we don't have to stick to Google if we don't have access to it.
Yeah, Daisy mentioned that she would look at those different resources and saw which ones were available in different regions as well.
Yeah.
Okay, that'll be useful. Okay, good. We can share that later with the recording of this session.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for such a great session. You're getting a lot of love in the chat box. Lots of people enjoyed today's session. And I think I've got a lot from it, a lot of food for thought, as I mentioned earlier in the introduction. It's great, isn't it? Like you said, project-based learning is when it works, it is fantastic, and it probably won't work brilliantly the first time, but keep trying and follow the process that Super and John have put to you today, and I'm sure you'll be able to benefit, and more importantly, your students will benefit too. So can we just move on the slides? I've got a couple, don't go anywhere yet. I've got a couple of things I want to talk to you about before we say goodbye. So can someone just move the slide on for me? So first of all, if you don't already, please follow us on Facebook, where you will find information about other webinars that are coming up and other products and ideas and teaching techniques that we have are posted on Facebook. If you're in China, probably a better platform for you is the WeChat platform. And you can see the QR code there for, again, all the materials, all the webinars and blogs and recordings and PowerPoints and all the things that you like. And the email address is there as well. If you want to contact us by email, you can do that as well. Coming up tomorrow, we have a round table session with our global experts. They're going to be here to talk to you about education for sustainable development and global citizenship. Now, hopefully Super's got it, but in the chat box, there's a link for you to register for this session. And also there's a Zoom link, hopefully coming in the chat, for Thursday's session, where you will see me and John do a presentation with Super hosting the presentation.
On Friday, actually.
On Friday, sorry, on Friday. Thank you, Super. Sorry, Thursday is tomorrow. I've lost my train of where I am. No worries. Friday is the tremendous teen special with me and John talking about sustainable development goals and how you can incorporate them into your teaching.
These sessions will be recorded, Dale, won't they? I guess if
these sessions will be recorded, yeah. So you will get a link to those recordings, and particularly if you make friends with us on Facebook and the WeChat, you will get links to those recordings as well.
Yeah.
So
and
I
if
would
you want
like
to
to just
share
say,
feedback with us, you can scan this QR code to share some of your ideas after listening to our sessions today. Yeah, your feedback matters.
oh yes, please do. Yeah, we do listen to your feedback. It's very important to us, and it will help us moving into what are we in now, 2021, 2022 with oh my word, it's been a strange few years, hasn't it? So when we move into 2022, will really help us to make sessions that are tailored to what your needs are, and hopefully you'll be able to give us feedback on how we performed as well, so we can get better at what we do too. It's always important to know. So would you like to say anything else before we say goodbye, John? Super.
So thank you very much for spending this hour with us. And I'm glad that you have learned something from the session, and hopefully see you tomorrow and on Friday as well.
Likewise, yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. So he's been John. She's been Super.
He's been Dale.
Thanks for stopping by, Asia and Iran.
Stay classy, Asia, and the rest of the world, wherever you came from.
Yeah, and have a super day. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Take care. Thank you. Bye.